I'm Mindy Donner. I'm a mask maker, and this mask figures in tonight's story. This is the mask of the Greek goddess Hecate, pronounced Hecate in Great Britain, Thecate by a Greek lady who taught that to me in San Diego. So I've settled on Hecate. She doesn't sit on Mount Olympus, yet she is feared and awed by Zeus himself. She was the first midwife and herbal healer. And I wear her with a long, long purple velvet cape that shrouds the head. And I can manipulate that to expose the dog's head, but mostly it's covered, and I'm one character at a time until I become the other. Well, several years back, I used to perform quite a lot at Art Around Adams, which is a great art fair. And it was always a lot of fun and sometimes disappointing because the sound would go off or whatever. But still, there was that camaraderie with the other artists, mostly performance art, in a car wash that was cleaned up for the evening. Well, this year I wasn't in Art Around Adams, but I felt like being out on the street and testing my mettle. I had been teaching all so much in the schools, literacy through the arts, and I just felt like I needed to be in an adult context somewhere. So I donned my masks and my whole outfit, and I wear black velvet gloves so you don't see any skin, and I was set off on the street. Before I went, I called my former spouse and told him that I'd stop by his workshop office gallery, which is at the foot of Kensington. And so I parked near there and I set off. And I was in full regalia, and the first place I stopped was at an import store where the owners were my friends. And I went inside silently. I'm a silent character. And they said, "Oh, Mindy, so great to see you." And I stood there for a little bit and gestured and felt very warm and accepted, and then left. Soon I was to meet some friends, two other artists, who wanted to walk with me to ensure my safety. And that was really lovely. Well, it was still light out. I wasn't worried about my safety, really. I walked on and into Normal Heights, and I visited just about all the bars, restaurants, galleries that were open. Yes, everything was open back then. And I continued on my way to the heart of Normal Heights, where a friend operated a second floor art gallery, and I climbed up the stairs and I spied at one of the round tables, sitting on barrels, 4 or 5 male artists, friends. And I thought, oh, they're going to know who I am. And I went over to their board game and I got very close and I peered in. I think they were playing chess. And they did not recognize me. And they were unkind, even derisive. My feelings were hurt. I turned around and exited. I went to the bathroom, and it was so lovely to pull off the mask and take a breathing break. And I put it back on and fled down the stairs. I walked on to, just before the bridge, there was a tattoo parlor, and I stopped in and had a nonverbal conversation with the proprietor. He was a little perplexed, but played along with it, and he was not unkind. And we looked at pages of tattoos. They were highly ornamental, and I was pointing out some, and we were having this really interesting exchange, and I bade him a silent goodbye, and I left. And my feet were starting to get sore. I was wearing performance slippers and not walking shoes. I'd walked over a mile. I turned around, and it was getting to be twilight, and I walked all the way back past the import store. Right around there, I saw a group of teens that had gathered. Now, the girls looked at me and said not a word, and the boys let out catcalls and caustic remarks. I was furious. I was enraged. I turned around and glared. How do you glare in a mask? So I got out of there pretty quickly and walked as fast as I could. By the time I got to my former spouse's studio, it was dark. And so he was inside talking to a woman. He had left the door ajar. He's very social. I knew he was expecting people. It was at the end of the night. And I pressed my bluish face with the mask into the glass window. And I took my black gloved hands and I pressed up like this. The woman looked at me. I heard her say in a very low but distinct voice, "Brad, there is a woman or someone outside wearing a mask, attempting to climb the window." He looked at me through the glass, not missing a beat. And he said, "No worries, that's just my ex-wife." I felt accepted, acknowledged. I turned around, got in my car, took the mask off. What a relief. What a relief to not be in that guise anymore. Now, in reconstituting this story, two things came to me that hadn't maybe been consciously thought before. One was that I was not asked to perform. I wasn't in context where people expect the unusual. And two, I could take the mask off and walk down the streets and just be bypassed as an ordinary citizen with the privilege of light complexion. Thank you.